Thanks for having me. I'm pleased to be a panelist in Climate Justice Conference, and today I would like to share some thoughts about the connections between water, peace, and climate justice with a special focus on Iraq. We all know that we all are affected by climate change, but there is a golden question. The golden question is that, does the impact of climate change distributed fairly? You know, the answer is very simple with saying no, but a lot of factors need to be considered while discussing this important matter. Climate justice is the idea that demands action in response to, the unequal distribution of climate impacts. It's been over 200 years that the wealthiest countries around the globe contributed the most problems caused by unrestricted emissions since the Industrial Revolution. But it was the poorest countries and the developing countries, including Iraq, that paid the highest price for the climate breakdown. So the problem is that within this concept, it's the responsibility for the wealthiest countries to cut the emissions and to support the affected countries to recover. Scientists have reported that since 1750, the world's cumulative CO2 emissions were 1.5 trillion tons, with the top emitters of China by 33% globally, United States by approximately 13% globally, Russia by 5%. But when it comes to the consequences, we see the unfair results. Iraq is listed among the top 50 countries most vulnerable to climate change, while Iraq only emits by 0.5%. Same as Pakistan, they emit only 0.5% globally of CO2, while they have faced massive flood at 2022, which killed more than 1,700 people, and 1/3 of their lands have completely submerged. At the same time, the cost of the damage was around $40 billion. So to address these issues, there must be a global cooperation between the wealthy top emitter countries and the affected communities to be recovered within the interference of a global reliable organization like UN. When it comes to Iraq, in Iraq, water is not only about the daily survival, it's about peace. When water is scarce, it creates a lot of problems at the interstate and intrastate levels. When it comes to intrastate, it creates problems between communities, between farmers, which leads to other issues later, just like climate-induced migration conflict. At the interstate conflict level, it creates problems between upstream and downstream regions. But if the justice exists, the water can bring us together. That's why I completely believe that, if the water is shared fairly and effectively, it can help us to create peace instead of conflict. And it can be concluded that water, peace, and climate justice are all connected. Climate justice is about supporting the affected communities to get access to clean water and be adapted to climate change. It's not only about reducing the emissions. At the same time, I'm confident that within proper tools, commitment, and cooperation, we can create a future where water is shared fairly, where climate impacts are managed properly, and peace is established securely. Thank you.
المجموعة الإقليمية كلها حتى تخفف من هذه التحديات، لأن أتوقع أن التحديات هي مو فقط سياستك أنت في العراق، يعني سياسة حتى الدول المجاورة، فشلون هو ممكن يكون في إدارة عادلة لهذا الموضوع؟
Exactly. This is related to the political stability in Iraq because at the end of the day, we are a downstream country and they are upstream countries. So whenever we get the stability in terms of politics, we can go for a diplomatic approach and it will be effective because at the end of the day, even the upstream countries, they want peace with us because, sometimes, for example, I just tell you a recent story, some Iranian professors visited us in Kurdistan region. They went to Dr. Ramadan first, and they came to me for the interview process about losing the marshlands of Iraq and its impact on the air pollution in Iranian part, because these marshlands will work as a shield to protect Iran from sand and the storm. So all of these things, our friend, like sociologist, she mentioned a very important point, which is trust. This trust, once we get this trust between these countries, the upstream and downstream, we can go for effective diplomatic approach, because at the end of the day, now we have a situation. I'm not a sociologist, but when it comes to water, if we want or not, we have to enter politics, we have to enter a sociological approach, because at the end of the day, it's related to the life of individual for all societies. We know that there is a type of hate between these societies. Maybe some Iraqis, they are not happy with Iranians, vice versa with Turkey. This hate environment will not help us at the end of the day, because we are neighbors. So they have understood this situation, and now they opened the diplomatic approach. But the problem is we have to be honest with all of us, we have to blame ourselves first, because we don't have a strong government in this country. We have a lot of, let's say, political conflicts between different political parties. So once the upstream country sees these situations, of course, the diplomatic approach will not be effective. So that's why we need to focus on internal improvement in terms of politics, so we can go for a diplomatic approach that could be effective at the future.